Welcome to the Human Out Loud podcast, where people share personal stories and experiences in the hopes of creating a more connected world through vulnerability, honesty, and humility. I'm your host, Elise, and today I'll be talking with Brittany about her experience with infertility. We'll explore each step of her journey from initial red flags to fertility treatments and pregnancy. In terms of family planning and wanting to get pregnant, what were your original expectations for what that kind of part of the process would be like and what that experience would be like?
Well, as someone who probably didn't know a lot about, well, I mean, I guess I knew how babies were made, but I didn't know anything about, trying to conceive. So to me, it was, let's just start trying and just see what happens. And I have kind of vaguely heard that infertility was something that had affected some people I kind of knew through other people. So it was a little bit on my radar. But I remember saying, like, let's just try. It could take a long time or it could happen right away. And like, that was really all the thought I put into it. So, yeah, it didn't quite go like that.
So, at what point, because I feel like if that's not something you've had tons of experience with like close family members or really close friends, like you might not even know how long is a long time to try, or like at
Mhm.
what point that red flag kind of comes up or comes to mind. So I guess, yeah, what was that like when, like, did you have a moment where you're like, oh gosh, like
Man.
this is not seeming like how I thought it would be, or what was that like?
It's crazy because, I mean, I think in general, it probably typically goes like, okay, we're ready to maybe try and have a kid. Let's just, you know, take it easy. Like, we'll just try, we're not going to put a lot of effort into it. And then, like, maybe a couple months go by and that doesn't really work. So you look up more, kind of guaranteed methods or tips and tricks for getting pregnant. And there's all these crazy things like taking your temperature every morning and monitoring like your body, and it's kind of wild, and it can get to be pretty obsessive and very unromantic. But I remember being very adamant about all of that stuff for a good like 6 or 7 months, and then after that, I'm not even sure. At that point, I think I probably knew something was going on. So what is this? This is probably like coming up on a year. And after I had gotten to that point, I had read online that a lot of doctors won't even see you until you've been trying for a year. Um,
Oh
so I
wow,
was
that
like,
sounds like a long time to me.
it is, it really is, because it's like when you learn about how your cycles go, you're tracking every single day of your cycle and you're tracking your temperature to see when you think you might ovulate. And then when you think you might ovulate, then it's like, oh, we'll have a bunch of sex and then just hope it works. And then you have to wait like 2 weeks before you even know if that had worked that month. And so it's like this whole process of every month going through all these things and making sure you're doing all the right stuff. And then either your period shows up or you get a negative pregnancy test and think maybe it's too early. And so, yeah, you do that, 12 times if you have a regular period. And there you are. It's been a year. Um, and we went, I think we tried for at least 18 months before I got in with my doctor. And it's kind of wild to me that we even waited that long. Um, but I think I was a little bit in denial. So,
Yeah. Did you, going into things like at the start, did you tell many friends or family members that you were like, oh, yeah, we're finally trying to have a kid? Or because I know, I don't know, I feel like it's so easy, especially once a couple, like if a couple gets married, a lot of people within 6 months to a year literally start asking, or even
yes.
like I've been at a wedding and literally at the reception, people were asking, like, oh, when are you going to start cranking out babies? So I
Oh,
feel like there's this huge pressure put on to women, but couples in general. Um, like that's the kind of the natural next step in our society, it seems like. So that seems like something that comes up a lot. So I'm just curious if people knew you were trying, or just in general, if you felt like that just kind of added emotionally to the weight of just the process in general.
yeah. I vaguely remember, I think I told like my two best friends, and I'm pretty sure that was it as far as who I told in real life. but actually on Reddit, there's a couple different subreddits, like an online forum for people who are trying to get pregnant. And so I kind of formed those online friendships, of people who are going through kind of the same thing you are. And I think that was really helpful to be able to have that outlet and have it be kind of anonymous and kind of be in the trenches with people who are, I mean, most of the people got pregnant pretty easily. And so eventually I moved on to like a subreddit for infertility, but knowing that there was other people out there trying the same things as you and you didn't have to be so vague about it was really nice. And we got married. I was 24 and Nick was 23 when we got married. So we were like the first of our friends pretty much to get married or close to. And so I felt like, I don't know, I almost felt scared because there really wasn't a lot of people I knew my age who were having kids. And so I don't know, I didn't want to be as open about it. There was kind of that pressure of feeling like I'm the first one of my friends married and everyone's probably thinking that. So I don't, it's hard for me to remember a lot of like direct comments I may have gotten, but that societal kind of pressure was just always there.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting when you were talking about like the Reddit groups and talking to people online, or
Mm.
even just the online resources, like the fact that, like for the ovulation tracking, the fact that we have all these apps and all these like different things we can use. Like when you said that, it really made me start to think about how different that whole experience would be, even 10 plus years ago. Take it way back even further than that, saying like 30 some years ago, like I feel like that would even be more difficult because I feel like you're not really connecting with as many people. I feel like people really aren't talking about it at all. Uh,
Yeah.
so wow, yeah, I feel like at least in this time we're very fortunate that we can at least make those connections and try to form some sort of emotional support group in a way
Oh,
that we're comfortable
absolutely.
with.
I can't even imagine if it was 30 years ago because it's like you would have had to be more open with your real life friends and family. And because if you weren't getting support in any other way, I don't know how you could just do it all on your own and not tell anybody. Um, but it's like when people in your real life know you're maybe trying to have a kid and it's not working, and every month you're just like let down again. It's obviously a letdown for yourself, and you feel like you let down your husband, and then it's like now I have to like tell these people that know that are following along on my journey that are hopeful and excited for us. I have to tell them it's not working, and that's just like really kind of mortifying. And I want to say you feel kind of ashamed, which maybe isn't the right word, but it's not fun.
Yeah,
It's
like
not
it's
fun
not
at
the
all.
news you want to share with people.
Yes, exactly. It's hard to feel it's like something, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't this work? And it's crazy to think about when I was trying to get pregnant the natural way. Like, how right now we're in a pandemic and there's like the before times. Like, to me,
Yeah.
trying to get pregnant naturally, it's like the before times, like, oh, it was hard, but like it was not nearly as hard as life was after I found out we would need fertility treatments. And it's just
Mhm.
kind of interesting to think back on it now.
After that 18 months of of those before times, and finally getting into your doctor, how do you feel like that kind of experience of talking with a healthcare professional and figuring out what your options were and kind of next steps, what was that like for you? I mean, was it exciting? Was it scary? I mean, I know for fertility treatments, I mean, I honestly don't even know what all the options are, but I know that there's a lot of probably different considerations you have to take before going into that, maybe financially, like physically, like the different outcomes. So I guess what was all of that like?
It was pretty intense, that's for sure. We were lucky, I think, as soon as I feel like I was ready to schedule an appointment with the doctor, I think I got in pretty quickly. Um, so I was thankful that we didn't have to wait like forever to go in and talk with somebody about it. But we didn't, we just skipped like my general doctor. We just went straight to the fertility clinic because I don't know, I guess we were allowed to do that. Um, and I do remember feeling like, there's some time where after so long where it's not working, um, you kind of want to like close your eyes and pretend it's not happening, in denial. And so when it was finally like time to go in, it was like, okay, I just have to take the blindfold off and like we're just gonna go face this and we're gonna figure out what's wrong. And that was, I mean, it was scary, but it was actually really nice to talk to a doctor who knew exactly what was going on. She could do all these tests on us and figure out what the problem was and kind of lay out all of the options and kind of guide us through this process of figuring out, okay, where do we go from here? Like, what exactly is the problem? What do you recommend? And as far as like general fertility treatment options go, there's like, an IUI. There's medications that you can take to boost your ovulation. An IUI is where they inject sperm directly into your uterus and kind of hope something happens. And then like the next big step from there is basically IVF, which is where they harvest your eggs. It sounds crazy to say this out loud, I swear. But they like shoot you full of medication for like a month and they harvest your eggs and they inject the sperm like right into there pretty much. So those are kind of the basic levels. But um, we were basically told that we'd have to go straight to IVF. There really was no other option for us. And while that was scary, it was kind of nice to know that like we were just going to pull the heavy hitter option out right away and that was going to give us our best chance.
Yeah, so for people that might be kind of in that boat of thinking this might be a direction they're going or someone that's going through this, what I guess what's the general kind of like experience of like getting all those hormones and going for the appointment where they harvest your eggs and then actually like trying the treatment? I mean, I guess what for you, what was that like and what could people kind of expect going through that entire process?
So let's say, for example, we're just going to do an IVF cycle. That whole cycle, kind of all said and done, takes like 2 months because I mean, first thing you have to do is take birth control for a month, which my doctor explained is that will kind of quiet everything down. So it's like
Mm.
we're going to get a good handle on your hormones, make sure they're where we want to be. And then after that, that's when you start all of the shots. And not to mention, even starting with the birth control and getting to that point, before that, I mean, we probably had a good 2 months of like testing to figure out what's wrong. And we also have to do some testing to make sure that like IVF is even an option, like physically. They had to like take a look at my uterus and everything, my fallopian tubes to make sure nothing was blocked and all this stuff. So once we even got to the point where we were going to do IVF, it's okay, well, here, take birth control for a month and we'll see you in a month. It's like, oh my God. It just felt very much like hurry up and wait. Like, even
Yep.
though in the long scheme, 2 months isn't that long of a time, but when you're going through something like this, a whole month of birth control is just like an eternity. So you finally get through the birth control, and it's like, I'm pretty sure I had to do 4 different shots a day and it was like 2 in the morning, 2 at night. Most of them were kind of in my stomach, like it's just in the stomach
Oh,
fat, these tiny little
so
shots. But one
you
of
had
them,
to do that yourself?
yeah, and Nick had to help me too because
Oh.
the little shots, I'm kind of forgetting exactly how it all works, like how many medications I was taking a day. This was like 4 years ago now, but um, the big scary shot was progesterone, which is this shot of progesterone, which is suspended in oil, and it's an intramuscular shot that you have to give to yourself every day. So basically, Nick was jamming this gigantic needle into my hip every day to insert this medication. And the other 3 shots were just these tiny little ones that you just put like in the fat of your stomach. It was no big deal, um, but all of these medications together, they like grow your eggs. It's like steroids for your eggs. And so you see how many you can grow. And by the time they're ready to take them out, I mean, it almost feels like you're kind of pregnant because there's a bunch of eggs. And, typically, if you're having a normal cycle and you're not going through this, you just have like one egg a month that kind of blows up and is ready to get fertilized. But when you do IVF and you take all these meds, you have like, I mean, some people literally have like 30 eggs
Oh
ready to
my God.
harvest. It is wild. And so like your stomach's all bloated and everything feels all weird and oh, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think even what comes next. They do tons of monitoring while you're taking all of your shots, which involves going in probably twice a week during that month that you're getting everything done. And they look at everything by ultrasound. They measure like your uterine lining, um, and then they take a look at how many eggs they see in there. And it's like they kind of have to time it. So once they say everything's looking pretty good, okay, now you have to give yourself this trigger shot of the pregnancy hormone. I don't know, at like exactly 7 o'clock at night on this day, and then 24 hours later is when they harvest your eggs. So it's pretty intense. It's very intense. I remember going through work and just feeling like I couldn't concentrate on very much. Um, it just took up all of my mind, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, that just seems really intense, and I guess I wouldn't have imagined that, like the shots that you'd have to do yourself and just the timing of everything. I mean, that's way more regimented than what I would have assumed. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And then I guess when they actually do, okay, so when they actually end up fertilizing the eggs,
Hmm.
I know before you had mentioned to me that you ended up going through a couple of the eggs before.
Yep,
So I
yep.
guess I don't know how
Okay,
that process
yep.
looks like, but I guess what it's like to even have like some of the eggs fail. If I mean, I feel like for me, I'd be like, oh my god, I'd be like counting down and just like
Oh my God.
freaking out if it didn't work out. So
Yeah,
what was that
it's
experience like for you and your partner?
it's very intense. So first of all, when they harvest your eggs, it's a surgery where they put you out under general anesthesia because they like literally take a gigantic needle and go through your uterine wall and suck all the eggs out. It's a very kind of intense procedure. It's still outpatient, like I was still home that night, but um, that procedure in general, there's a lot riding on that, because you may have 30 eggs. Let's say I mean, 30 eggs is quite a lot to have. That would be kind of an over, but some people have that many. But let's say on ultrasound before you go in, they see 30 eggs. When they actually go in there, sometimes they might not be able to extract all of those, or they might not actually be fully formed. So you have to wait until after the surgery, until you wake up again to find out, okay, like how many did you actually retrieve? It's called an egg retrieval. And so that's kind of scary. They could see a whole bunch on the ultrasound, and maybe you only got a couple that will work. And I believe we ended up getting, mm, I want to say we got 14. I think we had 14 eggs, and I think 9 of them were good. Gosh, I can't believe I can't remember these numbers. I thought I would never forget them. But um, anyway, it was really good news to have as many as we had. We were really happy with that number. So what happens then when you wake up is then they take some semen and they actually inject one single little sperm into every one of those eggs. It's kind of crazy that they can do that. And then from there, you go home and you have to wait 5 days to see if they fertilized. So that 5 days is like the longest, most horrible 5 days ever. Um, because typically at least half of those will not fertilize correctly and they'll just kind of, die off. I've heard some terms being thrown around on the fertility boards. It was called like the embryo Hunger Games. It's kind of a
Oh,
comical way to put that, but it's like, okay, you're in petri dishes now. Like, let's see which one of you survive. And it's not like they're eating each other or killing each other or anything, but it does feel very, very intense. So anyway, before you go home after that retrieval, they'll put one of those eggs kind of back in you. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I think I'm remembering that wrong. So after 5 days, we had I believe we had 7 embryos. So we started out with 9 eggs that were viable. They fertilized them, and I think that we had 7 that were successful, which was really good, really, really good. And so after 5 days, you go back in and they place one of those embryos, in my uterus, and we hope that it sticks. And you have to wait like at least another 5 days before you know if you're pregnant or not. And ultimately, that one didn't stick. So that was a really huge letdown, but it's fairly common. So we just, gosh, I don't know. I think I got the call at work. I think I already knew I wasn't pregnant,
mm,
and that was such a bummer. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to remember. I remember like driving home from work that day, and it was really sad. But I think we felt kind of hopeful too because we still had 6 embryos left,
mhm.
and we knew that we could try again. So once you try again, So they put one embryo back. So we had 6 remaining embryos, and they freeze those for you. And so once your body's like ready again to try, then they'll do a frozen transfer. And you still have to do a bunch of shots. You have to go through like 2 months of
Oh my
birth
gosh.
control. Yeah, I know. So this was like, I think this was June when we figured out that the first one failed. And so I wasn't able to do another transfer of embryos until I think it was end of August. So we had to wait a couple months, and that was like really hard. But it's basically it's like a 1 month, you have to finish the cycle that didn't work, and then 1 month, a full cycle of birth control, and then basically 3 weeks to a month of more shots and getting your body ready for an embryo transfer. So you can't just like try again next month. It's this whole big production.
Hmm.
And I remember I was supposed to go to a friend's bachelorette party that weekend in August when we did another transfer, but I had to skip out on it, and I couldn't really tell her why, except that I was having a medical procedure. So that was a bummer.
Yeah, I was gonna say this seems like unless you're literally in the middle of a pandemic like we are now, like this seems like a really hard thing to
Yeah.
not share with family and friends. It's like, oh
Yes.
well, let me low key just go do my 2 p.m. shot. Like,
Oh
I
my
don't
God,
know.
absolutely. And at this point, once we got to the IVF part, I decided, I still had my online community of people that I could lean on for support, and that was amazing. But also, I think once we did IVF, I told a select few people because I knew I wasn't going to be able to just keep that a secret. I had so many plans, and I had to be home at 5:30 every single day to make sure I did the progesterone shot. Like I had to kind of regiment and schedule our lives around this. So for the people that we were closest to, there was just no way they wouldn't know something was going on. Um, so we did have a couple friends go through the actual process with us, and I think we chose the right friends to tell because they were so supportive and so wonderful. Um, and it was really nice to have that, even though they didn't really understand it. It was just really nice to have some real life people see what we were going through and just sit with us, for the hard parts.
Mhm.
I remember going to a concert in Chicago and having to like before we went to the concert, I was like, "Hell, got to give myself some shots real quick. Just don't mind me on the other side of the hotel room here."
Like, it's not that kind of party. This is
Yeah,
not
not
for
those kind of
fun.
exactly, exactly. So once you do once you do a frozen embryo transfer, it's a lot more low key than because you don't have to do an egg retrieval. You just have to get your body ready to receive the embryos. So there's not nearly as many shots. It's not nearly as intense, but it still takes some time. And so by the time that we were ready to transfer some embryos, we talked with our doctor and they said, since the first one didn't stick, we would be okay with you trying to put in 2 embryos this time. It doesn't really double your chance of success, but it does increase it. So I think that if you put one embryo in and it's a good embryo and conditions are looking good in the uterus, I think they say, if I remember correctly, it's like a 30 to 40% chance of success. It's really not a guarantee whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure when you're trying naturally and you don't have any fertility issues, it's like a 10 to 20% chance that you'll get pregnant every cycle.
Oh
So
wow, that is pretty low.
it is. And I think that's one of the parts that people don't understand with IVF is that it's not a guarantee. Yes, it increases
Mhm.
your chances, but it is absolutely not a guarantee because even get to the point where you could transfer an embryo, I mean, so many things could have already gone wrong at that point, and they do for so many people. They might retrieve eggs and they have nothing, or they might retrieve eggs and then they wait 5 days to see if they fertilized, and none of them did. I know so many people who went through that. So we were really lucky to even be able to get to a point where we have frozen embryos that we can try again. And it was not something we took for granted, that's for sure. But when you put 2 embryos in, it increases your chance from 30 to 40% to 50 to 60% chance of success. But it also increases your chance of twins to like 30%. So it was a risk that we were willing to take. They almost never will put in more embryos than 2 because any kind of multiples pregnancy is high risk, but they're willing to try if you haven't had success yet. So the doctor okayed it. We said, okay, let's put in 2 embryos, see how it goes. And after um, the transfer, they put 2 frozen embryos in. Well, they thaw them out first. It's just kind of a
That
fun.
just sounds like, yeah, like a goofy word. Just
I know they got to like defrost them, like make sure they're okay, and then
oh,
they they give me some medication. It's oh gosh, I can't even remember. It's like kind of what you take if you might have a panic attack. It like really relaxes you, you know.
mm-hmm.
So it's kind of nice, and it's not it's not very invasive. It's just kind of a nice procedure. But um, and then 5 days later, we found out that we were pregnant, and I think we had to wait another week to go in and get an ultrasound. And by that point, we were only like 5 weeks pregnant. And when you're doing fertility treatments, you get a ton of ultrasounds, which is kind of nice. Um, but yeah, I mean, we went in at 5 weeks, and they took a look, and they're like, "Yeah, you got twins in there." And that was a really big shock. And I remember kind of packing it away and saying, "Okay, there's two, and we're just gonna worry about that later. And for now, I'm just gonna worry about like making sure, hoping I stay pregnant, you know."
Yeah.
After going through so much with infertility, I think anyone is pretty aware of your risk of miscarriage. And there's really no like guarantee for each person, but the general risk of miscarriage. There's even a website that's literally like you enter in how many weeks and days you are pregnant, and it will tell you the
That
percentage risk
sounds
you
like a
have.
dangerous website for pregnant
It
women to use
it is, but it's
at
also
night around
really,
bedtime, just
yeah. So like
obsessively.
every day you go to it and you put in how pregnant you are, and you're like, yes, okay, the percentage is down like 5% or something. Um, so it's like one of those things that you maybe don't want to know, but like after you've gone through so much, it feels like you have to know. You have to know
Mhm.
every little thing that could go wrong, even though you can't control it. But yeah, we were pregnant. And I remember after our first ultrasound, when they told us it was twins, I remember them saying that they measured a little bit small, um, but they were still within a normal range. And there really wasn't much we could do about that or anything. So, um, and yeah, I haven't thought about this in a really long time. It's crazy. So by that point, they were like, okay, well, you're good to go see a regular OB now. So we graduated, quote unquote, from the fertility clinic, and I was able to go set up an appointment with a regular OB, and which I did, and it was really exciting to go in. I think we went in at like 7 or 8 weeks for our first ultrasound, and I guess I can't remember the exact order of events here, but at one point we figured out that one of the twins, the heartbeat was no longer there. And so that was, of course, really devastating. But I think that it was one of those things I was pretty good at compartmentalizing some things, some emotions after going through so much. And I think we were able to kind of, you know, compartmentalize that, put that in a box, maybe put it away for later and say, okay, well, we've got one baby in there still. And, twins would have been a lot, but maybe that wasn't meant for us right now. And so it was, okay, well, we got one baby made it. And then I think we had a regular follow up a few weeks later because it was twins and because one of them passed and because we had fertility treatments, we had still had a little bit more ultrasounds, I think, than a normal patient would. So we were in there at about 9 weeks. Um, and it was at that point that we found out that that baby had passed as well. I remember driving in that morning to that appointment, and like my husband and I were bickering about traffic, and we were running late, and it just felt like I knew that was going to happen. I don't know. It was just one of those mornings I didn't feel as pregnant. Something just didn't feel right anymore. Um, and so that was just horribly devastating. And I remember talking to my doctor after that appointment, after we got out of the ultrasound, and obviously I was like, crying and crying. And
Yeah.
um, that was just, I mean, it was just heartbreaking. I can't remember if it was that appointment or if it was later on when I saw my doctor for a follow up. But she told me, it was basically just shit luck. Um, since we were about 9 weeks along, I could either wait for things to happen naturally, and it looked like the baby had passed like 2 weeks before that appointment. And so
Oh,
it was like, okay, well, my body clearly doesn't know that something is wrong here. And so we decided to schedule a surgery, which is called a DNC, for them to remove it. Um, and that was not very fun. I remember the weekend I was supposed to go in for surgery like on a Friday, and it had gotten delayed because of some emergencies. So I wasn't going to go until Monday. And like that weekend, we decided to go to like an apple orchard with my husband's parents, and they had no idea what was going on. And I just had to like pretend to be totally fine. And I don't even know how I did that. I don't know how I did that. Um, yeah, that was really hard. So after going through all of that, we were pregnant for 9 weeks, and then we weren't anymore. Um, so that was in September of 2015. No, 16. 2016. The years are all kind of a blur now, but yeah, and after that happened, I came clean to my dad about what was going on because he's a really big, strong, emotional support person for me. And I'm actually kind of surprised I hadn't told him we were doing this until then. But yeah, he really helped me get through that. I had to sign up for therapy, and that was extremely helpful. And then I also had all of my online Reddit friends to lean
mhm.
on for support. And I think you'd be surprised. Maybe you won't be surprised. I don't know. But I couldn't believe how much support I got from the people online and from the people we told. And it's not like it's not like I thought these people wouldn't support me, but it sure felt good to have it, and not be able to or not have to go through that alone.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah.
I feel like it's really easy for any experience like that it's not this big happy thing that you're sharing with the world, and I feel like that's almost
Hmm.
all we hear now from, friends and family is kind of this pressure to be like, "Oh, like how are things? How are you? Are things good?" and just social media and kind
Yeah.
of this
Yes.
oversharing culture of like, here's this highlight of my life that I think it's really easy to assume like either people don't want to hear about this, people are going to be freaked out to talk about it,
Hmm.
or that no one else is going through anything similar. And that I feel like that can be really isolating in those harder times
Oh,
to
absolutely.
be surrounded by all those messages. So, you know, I
Absolutely.
I feel like it's, you say it seems funny that you didn't necessarily open up to certain people, but I think, a lot of people kind of have that hesitation.
Absolutely, especially with something so personal like that. And
Mhm.
I'm also looking back on it with kind of rose-colored glasses, and I'm looking back on it having gone through it now. So, it's a little bit easier for me to talk about it now than it was in the moment. That was a very heartbreaking, personal, tragic experience, and um, it's kind of scary to think about sharing that with the world. And you know, nobody has to share that with the world, but you're right, there is all this pressure and through all of this, that all the time that we had been doing this, people I knew were getting pregnant left and right. It is just, that is so hard. That is so hard to hear people getting pregnant before you, and you just know they haven't gone through fertility treatments. And it's like, oh, I'm sure they tried for 2 months and got pregnant. And it's impossible not to feel bitter about that.
Yeah. So how long did you end up waiting before you tried another implant?
So, yeah, it was September, yeah, 20, oh God, 16. And I think our next transfer was the end of February of the next year. So, it was one thing to transfer an embryo and have that not work, and then to feel like, okay, well, let's just try again. But to go through a miscarriage, there's a lot more trauma to kind of sort through there, not only mentally and like spiritually, but physically too. I had to have a surgery. They had to go in there and like remove that. And, mentally that's pretty scarring, but my body has to heal from that too. So, um, it took a long time for my body to get back to to normal. And I think they say you have to wait at least 2 months after you have a surgery like that to even think about starting again. And, they say that because of the physical stuff, but that they also mean mentally and emotionally because, as much as you want to like jump right back in the saddle and try again and just maybe pretend this never happened, that's not really healthy. So, I spent a lot of time, I had to go through the holidays after dealing with this. And I remember, I drank quite a lot of wine. I remember Christmas and Thanksgiving just, I don't think everyone always has 100% perfectly healthy coping mechanisms. So there was a lot of Netflix on the couch, drinking wine, eating chocolate, like maybe not the best coping behaviors, but there was a point where finally I was like, okay, I can't just keep doing this anymore. So I signed up for therapy and realized that the only way out of this emotional situation is to just go through it. You have to lean into that. And so I did with the help of my therapist and with the help of my friends and the help of my Reddit. And like, thank God for all of those things. So, the end of the year really sucked, but I was ready to try again, once the new year started. So, like I said, takes 2 months. So I'm pretty sure we started right after the new year, which, felt like a nice fresh start. Um, so we had to go through all that again, but luckily it wasn't like any kind of egg retrieval. We still had 4 embryos on ice at that point. So we talked with our doctor and they said they were willing to try 2 embryos again. And we knew that last time we got pregnant with 2 embryos, we were having twins. So that was a little bit scary of a decision to make to know that it was likely they were going to stick just because it happened the time before that. But we did it anyway. And I remember feeling pretty good about that cycle and feeling pretty good about it. I did all the superstitious things you're supposed to do when you have to wait 5 days to find out if you're pregnant, which is like um,
Okay, is
drink.
there like an official list, like a website somewhere, or where can people find
Yeah,
this?
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure I found it on Reddit, but literally it was all crazy stuff. Like one of them was drink like a shot glass full of pomegranate juice every day, which is, I mean, gross. But I did mix it with LaCroix. I don't know. I guess I'm not a straight pomegranate juice person, so I didn't really enjoy it. But then it was also eat the core of a pineapple for 5 days and then eat like 2 Brazil nuts, which are like not very good. And then I think I just took some other like vitamins and stuff. But they say there's something about the pomegranate juice, the core of a pineapple, and Brazil nuts, like nutritionally, that are supposed to like help encourage implantation of your embryo. And so at this point, I'm like, I will literally do anything. Like,
Just stocking up at the grocery store, throwing pineapples in their cart, and
I know. And like all three of those things, I mean, they're terrible. Like, like I don't really like pomegranate juice. The core of a pineapple is like super stringy and chewy. It does not taste good. And then Brazil nuts are just not very good nut. Like they're not tasty like almonds. I did not care for them, but I was like, I will do anything to get this to work. So I did. And 5 days later, I found out I was pregnant again. And I just kind of knew. I just knew it was going well. It just felt like it was going to work. I had a gut feeling, and it did. And so I think a week after we found out we were pregnant and like my blood levels looked good, we went in for an ultrasound, and lo and behold, it was twins again. And before the ultrasound person said anything, like I could see it clear as day on the screen. And I remember being like, oh my God. And Nick was like, what? I was like, you don't see that? You don't see that? There's two in there. Um, but they looked a lot more normal this time. They weren't measuring small for their gestation period. And so, like I said, everything just felt okay. Everything just felt like this was going to work. And so I did that again where I could kind of I was like, okay, I'm going to take the fact that I have twins. I'm going to take all that emotion, all that freaking out, and I'm just going to pack it in a box and I'm going to open that when I get to the second trimester because I don't, I can't deal with that. Like right now, I just need to survive the first trimester because
Mhm.
miscarriage risk goes down quite a lot once you enter your second trimester. So at that point, it was just like survival mode. I felt like I was white knuckling it through the whole first trimester, just hoping they would stick. Um, And long story short, they did, and I have twins, and
Yay.
they're 3 years old. Yeah. Um, they were born 7 weeks early, so we spent a month in the NICU. But you know what's kind of weird about that is I never had any terribly scary feelings about that either. It's like they were born. I mean, I freaked out a little bit when I went into labor, but I felt like it was fine, like it was right. And they were preemies, but they weren't like super preemies. They had a very good chance. They just had to learn how to eat and breathe. And so the NICU was well equipped to handle how to teach them how to do those things. So I don't know, it all just felt like it happened like it was supposed to, which is a really weird thing to say, but um I was excited to go to the NICU each day and like see my babies and
Oh,
see the doctors and take notes about everything. And it was like going to college. It was so interesting. So it all worked out in the end. And we still have two embryos on ice. I don't know what we're going to do with those yet.
oh, that's what I was gonna ask. Is there like a certain amount of time where there's kind of like an expiration date where you have to decide, or is it kind of a they would last way longer than you would ever even need them to?
I'm pretty sure that like when my daughter grows up and wants to have kids, she could probably use my embryos. I don't think there's any crazy time limit on it. I think they used to say 10 years, but I think they were just wrong about that, honestly. And now I've just heard that they'll last pretty much forever, as long as you keep them frozen. So, but they do encourage you to make a decision relatively soon, so you're not just paying to have them stored
Oh,
every
sure.
month for like the rest of your life, because it's like $60 a month, which isn't like a ton, but it's not like nothing. And but yeah, I don't know. At some point, we have to make a decision, and really, I think there's four decisions. One is we could go through another transfer to try to have more kids. Um, we could we could destroy the embryos. We could donate them to science. Although I think it's actually kind of hard to donate your embryos to science because there's literally hundreds of thousands of frozen embryos out there that people have not made decisions on. So there's kind of a wealth of embryos for science. Or you can donate your embryos to another couple who can't
Hmm.
use their own eggs or sperm to have a child. So all of those decisions are not easy ones. And at some point, we're going to have to make a decision. But I don't know. I have to say, going through everything we did, I think it was a lot easier to go through it from start to finish. It's we've made it to the other side essentially, and we got two children out of it, and we are so extremely lucky. Um, but the whole time we were going through it, it was like, okay, what's next? Okay, something new is happening. Okay, this happened. Okay, we have to try this. And we kind of did all the things. And now, if we were to decide to have more children, I would know what to expect. I know exactly what would happen. And the thought of going through all of that stuff, I don't know. I just don't know if I can do it. I can't believe I did all that once, twice, three times, sort of. To the
Yeah.
thought of doing it again is a little overwhelming. But I don't know. I don't know what we'll do yet.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting too. I mean, now that you've gone through the experience, I feel like, well, from one perspective, like you said, it would almost maybe make it more difficult to go through it again.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, like, is is almost like is it this like blissful ignorance going into it of like,
Yeah.
obviously it's difficult in the moment and it's going to be difficult, but almost not understanding,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in the entirety of how difficult it really will be. So, maybe that helps you kind of take it step by step, like you really have to at that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was really like day by day, hour by hour sometimes. And, it's like I had to do that sometimes to survive having newborn twins too. But I mean, yeah, yeah, it is kind of that ignorance of now that I've seen the whole picture and now that I've seen the journey very clearly that we went through to get here, the thought of doing it again is a little overwhelming. Not to mention, if we have two embryos left and we end up with goddamn twins again, the thought of that, going through that again is even more overwhelming. So,
We'll just have to wait until you and E are old enough to help you take care of another set of
exactly.
babies. Let's
Yes.
just wait
Once
another 10 years and
I know, like if they could help change a diaper, maybe I'll consider it. Right now, no. Oh my God, it would be wild. But some people have done that. Some people have done that. And, props to them. It's amazing.
yeah, so I think the really other main thing I wanted to ask you would be any general advice you have for, anyone out there that's either planning on having children, planning to kind of start attempting that soon, and or people out there that might be, realizing they have a infertility issue or and trying to go through treatment or trying to grasp what their options are and make those big decisions. For any of those parties, I guess
Mm.
any words of advice or anything that you'd want to say to anyone.
Yeah. Well, first, don't ask your friends when they're having kids. If they want to share that with you, they'll share it with you. You just, everyone's having a struggle that you don't know about, right? And this could very much well be one of them. So that's for all the friends and family out there. Stop hounding the people you know about babies because you just don't know what's going on. Um, Second, for people who might be considering having a kid, well, I guess you know what to do, but if you're maybe feeling like you have a feeling this isn't going to work or it's been about a year and it's not working, honestly, I would just get in as fast as you can. I mean, we waited 18 months and I think I would have been able to get in with my fertility doctor probably after 9 months. Um, and I know that certain clinics and certain healthcare situations are not all the same. I think we were really lucky to just be able to get in kind of whenever we wanted, but I wish I had done it sooner. Um, I would also say make sure you get everything checked. I mean, most good fertility clinics will do that, but make sure you check, get the test done so they can figure out what's going on, and make sure to test. If you have a husband, make sure to check them too. Check their blood levels, their hormone levels. Check all of those things. Male infertility is a really gray area. There's just not much known about that, like there is with female infertility. So that would be my advice. Don't forget the guy. Um, Gosh, anyone who has to go through this, get a support system and get on Reddit. Stay away from Baby Center. Stay away from those stupid forums. Find a Reddit thread. Find a subreddit about infertility. Those people are going to be the supportive ones. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's my advice. I feel like I had more, but I'm forgetting it.
No, no, that was perfect. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for your time.
You're welcome.
As someone that has not tried to have children yet or does not have children yet, it's really interesting to, hear about everything you went through because, again, I think it's easy to kind of think, oh, well, when we're ready, we'll just try and, magically we'll just, get pregnant,
Yeah.
when we want to. And I don't think that really plans out that way. So, no, it's really great to hear about other people's experiences because I think that's how we can kind of all learn and find connections and, um, just be real human beings that, have real human struggles. So I
Yes.
really appreciate your
No,
time.
you're welcome. And I just remembered one thing I want to add
Yeah,
because
yeah, go
really,
for it.
I really like what you said about human struggles. With the few friends that we shared what we were going through, um, they were the ones that were really able to just be there for us with these human struggles. Like they didn't try to make us feel better when things were hard. They didn't try to instill this like false sense of positivity. They were there to hear our struggles and to be there for us. Um, and so I would find yourself some friends like that. And then if you are ever in a position where someone you know is going through this, you just be careful what you say. I mean, really, all you need to do is just sit there and listen, and give them some love. You don't need to cheer them up. You don't need to tell them they can try again. You don't need to tell them, well, at least you got pregnant. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
there's a million articles about what not to say to somebody who's going through infertility or a miscarriage. And they're all pretty spot on, so you can find that information on your own. But I would say if someone chooses to share that information with you, just give them a big hug and just tell them you're there for them, just to listen. And that's, I think, like you said, human connection. That's really true human support and human connection. So we were lucky to have that.
That's amazing to hear. Yeah, I'm glad that you found that, and yeah, I'm glad you added that at the end because I think with anything like that, sometimes as a response to someone sharing something, it's kind of our gut reaction, at least mine, to be like, okay, how can I help? What can I fix? And try
Yeah.
to make them feel better. But um, I
Yeah.
like that you added that because I think that's really important to take into consideration and just be there for people, like you said.
Yeah. Good.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Brittany. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really nice talking to you, Elise.